Okay, so Sansa V. All right, so where is Sansa? Because in the previous chapter, she just disappeared. And right now, we catch up with her, running through the trees, the bells tolling behind her, far across the city, which she recognizes as a sign that Joffrey is indeed dead, because she remembers those same bells ringing the same way when Robert died. So we find out that she did witness Joffrey choking, and while everyone was busy trying to save him, she must have figured, okay, as good an opportunity to make a runner will never come again. So poof, off she went. And how right now she's because remember that the one of the last things Cersei said in the previous chapter, Tyrion 8, was to command the Kingsguard to seize both Tyrion and Sansa. So she made a runner, and nor was she the only one, because remember in the previous chapter, most of the guests with no particular interest in seeing Joffrey saved, mostly freeloaders, they all vacated the room, scattering chairs, panicky. Pretty much everyone with the exception of Tyrells, Lannisters, Kingsguards, Gold Cloaks, that lot. And in her flight out of the throne room, she found herself sprinting with Lady Tanda, who, panting and puffing, she went, "Oh, girl, you have such a good heart, crying profusely, I saw you, for the fate of that boy who cast you aside and married you to Tyrion." Because she can't stop crying, Sansa can't. It's the emotion, you see. Plus, it's really her brother Rob that she's crying for, because death at a wedding, you can see the connection. Anyway, that's what she's saying to herself. I'm really crying for Rob. I couldn't give a damn about Joffrey. And also she's crying for Marjorie, because, twice widowed. So yeah, she does have a kind heart. All right, okay, let's move on. Oh, and just mentioning Lady Tanda reminds me that Shay is now officially unemployed, now that Tyrion is probably going to be arrested. I thought I'd mention. And Sansa has a plan, because she hid a sort of disguise in the woods. See, she did follow Dontos's plan to the letter, down to the silver hairnet with the black/dark purple gemstones. But where are my manners? Welcome, dear listener, to the incoherent ramblings of an insane person online, me. Glad you could join us. We are reading A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. And right now, we're sinking our teeth into Sansa V. All right, let's proceed. So what an exhilarating moment. Yeah, this could mean freedom. As long as that pisshead Dontos doesn't stand me up. This is Sansa thinking. Joffrey's gone. And I am, well, not in the clear yet, not out of the woods actually, because literally, but yeah, life-changing moment, and by the balance of a hair. Of course, Sansa doesn't know how close she came to being dragged into a dungeon, but she'll find out. So she gets changed in the woods, tosses her wedding guest attire, the gown, into the bole of an oak tree, and puts on a cloak, sensible shoes and all, to look like a regular small folk sort of girl. And Dontos did tell her, don't forget to bring some warm clothes, so as to widen the choice of restaurants we can go to on this holiday of ours. You know what I mean? Okay, I should probably mention at this point that these dialogues are slightly paraphrased, okay? And then she struggles a bit, if only Shay was here, right? she struggles trying to get her that silver hairnet out and let her hair down in a big cascading effect that really should be in slow motion, like that scene from, what was it? Was it Airplane 2? Julie Haggerty, I think. She removes her pin and whoa, her hair just goes amazingly all over the place as she shakes her head. Anyway, so oh, look at that! One of the black amethysts from Ashai is missing. Oh, rats! The silver hair with dark gemstones, which Dantos insisted she take and wear at the wedding, because it was magic and revenge and hope and home and all of that. And now one of the stones is gone. In its socket, there's a dark smudge. Are precious stones supposed to leave a smudge? And all of a sudden, Sansa panics. Dun dun dun, dreadful omen. She can't quite put her finger on it, but yeah, ominous feeling. Anyway, we're finally told Sansa she's in the woods. What kind of woods? She's in the God's Wood, okay? Because, well, yeah, actually, where else, right? All of her secret encounters with Dantos took place in the God's Wood. And the man himself finally arrives. Drunk as a fish, of course. Yeah, well, from the wedding reception. Hello. Oh, you monster, she goes. Those were no amethyst from Ashai. Amethysts, my ass shy. They were poisoned, weren't they? That's what's been used to kill Joffrey, huh? Dantos is all like, no, Joff choked on a pie. Great pie it was, if a bit dry. Okay, now, for all readers who keep going, oh, Sansa's like, so totally dumb, isn't she? Well, isn't it amazing how she manages to put all the pieces together? I mean, given how little information she actually has less information than a first-time reader. And yet her brains are so far ahead, and not for the last time. The amethysts were poisoned. And, that can only be the only reason why Joffrey choked to death. That's what she's thinking. Anyway, but Dantos is all like, no, not so loud, love, not so loud. You want us to get arrested, like your lawfully wedded husband. Oh, Tyrion has been arrested? Yeah, unless you have another husband. So off they go. You know, Dantos knows the way, apparently, some shortcut or other to the docks. Meanwhile, all sorts of conspiracy theories pop in Sansa's mind. You know, she engages in a bit of a Cluedo. She's thinking, so maybe it was Tyrion in the throne room with an amethyst. See, nothing gets that idea out of Sansa's head. It must have been that missing gem, for sure. And while the bells keep ringing, she thinks, that's right, and knowing Cersei, if she had her brother arrested, she definitely suspects me as a partner in crime. Phew, yeah, that was a close one, huh? So just to recap, it's night and it's pitch black, which is kind of like why Dantos was specific about dark colors, you know, wear dark colors, that Sansa should wear, you know, dark colors in her escape. Him, however, you know, he's in full night attire with the surcoat of his house, you know, House Lollard. He wanted to be a knight at least this one last time. The one time he's doing something heroic for a change, or so he claims. And I'm inclined to believe him. So they finally enter a tunnel that goes through 12 foot of wall, the Red Keep wall, and they finally get through to the other side, in Jim Morrison's words. And they find they find themselves on top of a cliff. This is like really Indiana Jones style, you know, the Temple of Doom style, you know. The end of that train, you know, mine train ride is on top of a cliff, you know, really dodgy, and the river way down below. Yep, Temple of Doom through and through, and they're supposed to climb down. not for the faint-hearted. I repeat, it's pitch dark, and these two, I mean, Dontos is wasted, and he's supposed to be leading the way. Sansa has never done that climb before. There's some part of some sort of ladder carved into the rocks, but still, it kind of reminds me of those crazy steep stairs in those Hindu temples, like in Cambodia. But Dontos tried to encourage her. Yeah, look, darling, yeah, there's no other way. I'm saving you. Like you saved me way back, remember? When Joffrey would have cut my head off? Yeah, now it's my turn, I'm saving you. Because, he would have... No, he wouldn't have cut off my head. He would have killed me with wine. How fitting if it had his way, but you stopped, you stayed his hand. Yeah, which, convinces Sansa that maybe it was Dontos who killed Joffrey after all. She keeps thinking about this. She keeps trying to put the pieces together. Anyway, so down they go, one terrifying step after the other, until they finally reach the ground, and on the riverbank, a strange man is waiting in a boat, a skiff. We learn his name is Oswald, because Dontos is so drunk he calls him by his first name, forgets he's not supposed to, no names in this SAS style extraction operation type thing. And boy, does this Oswald look familiar. So they hop onto the skiff and row your boat. Off they go. It's sort of like rowing their way downstream, sliding above the sunken galleys, past broken masts. I'm reading here, literally. Burned hulls and torn sails. The wreckage that still remains from the Battle of the Blackwater. And every scrap of conversation is shushed by this Oswald because, and I quote, no talk, sound carries over water. Which might be an important detail if you embrace a certain theory that claims that Tyrion, and not Joffrey, was the intended victim at the royal wedding. Since that particular piece of pie that Joffrey choked on was served to Tyrion. Remember, Joffrey helped himself from Tyrion's plate. And whoever is expecting on board of that ship that's supposed to whisk Sansa away only knows that Joffrey died because of the bells that are ringing, which he could totally hear from the ship because sound carries over water. So the mysterious person who is waiting on the ship that will take Sansa to freedom, home, whatever, doesn't know that Joffrey and not Tyrion has indeed died from the pie. He knows it because the King's Land, the Red Keep, King's Land landing would not start tolling the bells for Tyrion, Tyrion's death. But for Joffrey, yes. All right, okay, no need to be coy, right? I mean, I can assume that you, dear listener, have at least made it to the end of this chapter, right? So here's my spoiler policy. None. I will endeavor to keep these commentaries spoiler-free, and whatever reference I make to other chapters and books in the series, they will be references to past chapters and books and not future ones, okay? So in other words, I'll be looking back and not ahead. Okay, so assuming you know who's waiting on the deck of that ship, Littlefinger, the theory goes he planned to have Tyrion murdered for whatever reason. Supposedly the quote-unquote amethysts was still the murder weapon, but ended up in Tyrion's pie, intended for Tyrion, disguised as bits of, I don't know, peppercorn, cloves, pigeon shit, I don't know. And it seems that Littlefinger, in the following dialogue with Sansa, which we will witness shortly, it seems he's playing the game of I didn't know. You just told me. You know, when it comes to how things went down at the royal wedding. In fact, shall we start calling it the purple wedding like everybody else does? You know, purple as opposed to red. Even though the only instance of the color purple being mentioned in that chapter is when purple wine trickles down Joffrey's throat as he drinks his very last sip of wine. Gulp. But yeah, and you know what? To me, my recollection, I can't even remember whether it is in the text of these books that the definition purple wedding is used, or is it something that the fandom came up with? I don't remember. I suppose we'll just have to keep on reading. Anyway, so that's the theory as I laid it out. I'm not sure I've ever warmed up to that theory, but there you have it. You know, all spelled out. And there's what was I saying? Preston Jacobs. More on that later. I'll talk about it later. Because right now we have to meet Littlefinger. There he is. Dropping on top of the ship, you know, on deck, as it were, dropping a rope ladder on the side of this trading galley, the Merlin King, which was supposed to take Lord Baelish to the Vale. Well, not to the Vale, because you can't sail all the way to the Vale, but you know, in the vicinity. So big reveal. So a couple of sailors help Sansa on board. Hello, sailor. And then Littlefinger goes, "Oh my, you're cold, poor dearie." And he places his cloak on her shoulder, which is kind of like a wedding ritual. Oh, foreshadowing of sorts. All the while, Dontos is still on the boat. You know, hi, I'm also here. Hi. It reminds Lord Baelish of that little detail, the payment, which he wouldn't mind receiving now, as he's just about to get back to shore, or so he thinks. And it all happens in a moment. Lothar Brune, this is, in this particular context, is Littlefinger's right-hand man, standing right next to Littlefinger. He gives a signal with a torch to three crossbowmen, who proceeds to fire at Dontos, three quarrels, three arrows, and kaput. He's gone. Dontos is gone. After which Lothar, how do you pronounce it? Throws a torch, the same torch, at the boat, which sets it ablaze. This is like a very, isn't it? Like a river run type of funeral, isn't it? Dontos got a... even though none of the parties involved has any connection to River Run, with the exception of Sansa, whose mother hailed from those parts. Still, I like to think Dontos finally died a knight's death, killed by a quarrel, wearing, his house's surcoat, rescuing a damsel in distress. I mean, it ticks all the boxes. Now, this Lothar Brune, before we move on, we have encountered him before. Well, first in the tourney on King Joffrey's name day, when he was supposed to joust against none other than Sir Dontos. And that was the chapter and book where we first met both these characters. Dontos being too drunk to even mount his horse, and wasted and naked from the waist down. Okay, let me repeat that. Wasted, bollock naked from the waist down. But yeah, small world, huh? And then in the Battle of the Blackwater, we met Lothar Brune again. But apparently it is never explained in the actual text when Lothar enters the services of Littlefinger, the employment. It's only in the appendix of this same book. Here, let me read it to you. Sir Lothar Brune, named Lothar Apple Eater. Lothar Apple Eater. for his deeds during the Battle of the Blackwater, a former free rider, okay, in service to Lord Baelish. There you go. That's all the explanation we get. Appoliter, because he killed a bunch of Fossaways, whose sigil happens to be the apple. So there. But if I may, I'd like to spend a few words on Dontos Lollard, actually, particularly since we won't encounter him again, because House Lollard from Duskendale was almost entirely wiped out by command of King Aerys II Targaryen, and their castle, the House Lollard's castle, lied in ruin at the beginning of this story here, of the beginning of book 1 of this story. You know, as a reprisal for the defiance of Duskendale, when Aerys was kept prisoner by Lord Dennis Darklin. It's all there in the World of Ice and Fire. Now, imagine what all that must have done to Dontos, you know, who was just a boy at the time, forced to leave his hometown. Listen to this. Forced to leave his hometown, relocate in King's Landing, effectively ruled by some of the people who contributed to the near extinction of his own house. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, well, it's Sansa's story, basically. So yeah, I'm inclined to believe that Dontos wasn't just after the money when he accepted to work for Littlefinger in this whole scheme. Oh yeah, that's right, because Dontos was Littlefinger's pawn the whole time, right from the beginning, where Sansa first saw the message, you know, come to the Godswood tonight if you want to live, you know, Terminator style. And this was way back in Sansa 2, Clash of Kings. And we readers were given a clue in Tyrion 3, remember, because this same book, Storm of Swords, when Kevan Lannister addressed the small council saying, Lord Baelish, you know, he's a good guy, he's cool, he's loyal, he's a smashing bloke. He told us of a certain Tyrell plan to take Sansa to High Garden, ostensibly on a tourist visa, to marry her to Lord Mace's eldest son, Willas. Yeah, remember? Lady Oliena's plan? I keep pronouncing it Russian. Oliena. My name is Oliena. Yeah, anyway, so yeah. How did... Now, because that was... That moment of the council, the small council meeting, that line spoken by Kevan Lannister was a jaw-dropping moment, because I don't know if you remember, but Sansa didn't tell a soul about this plot laid out in, I believe, Sansa 1 by Lady... the Queen of Thorns. And certainly none of the Tyrells spilled the beans, because the plan was a closely guarded secret. So how exactly did Littlefinger learn of that Tyrell plan? Wait, yes, Sansa actually did tell someone, a certain Dontos. Aha! So at that point, I repeat, Tyrion 3, even first readers, which may well be you, dear listener, if we were still wondering, you know, whether Dontos was acting on his own accord or whether he was actually on someone's payroll, well, at that point, I guess we stopped wondering, right? And apparently, even the location, you know, the Littlefinger laid out all the details, every single, you know, down to a T. Even the location for Sansa's encounters with Dontos had been picked by Littlefinger, because there are no walls or corners in the Godswood, you know, where spies might hide behind. No ceiling, because the Godswood is well, it's a wood, isn't it? It's an outdoorsy location. It's a Dior, as certain cocktail bars like to call their beer garden, where none of Varys's little birds might be listening. You know, those little birds, little rats, as Littlefinger calls them. So yeah, we were told vaguely about those little birds. In the chapter where Arya overhears a conversation between Varys and Magister Illyrio Mopatis. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly which Arya chapter that is, but it's in the, in the skull, dragon skull dungeon. I'll can look it up later. So yeah, now and what was I talking about? Yeah, Dontos. Yeah, the Dontos. I'm inclined at not being too harsh to with Dontos for turning into an alcoholic. Given his PTSD, and at Sansa's protestation, not to mention penchant for stating the obvious. She goes to Littlefinger. Well, you killed him, you monster! You killed him. Yeah, he's all like, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, this is what I always say, and this is Littlefinger speaking. A bag of golden dragons buys a man's silence for a while, but a well-placed quarrel buys it forever. No need to spare tears over that guy, Sansa. Come on, he was just doing that for the money. He was going to rat you out as soon as the money would eventually, run out. By the time he drank all the money that I promised him, but never gave him, he was gonna, sing the whole story for more money. Sing the whole story to our, to your pursuers. Those who are pursuing, there will be those who will be chasing you. So yeah. Do you know what, Sansa? This is still Lord Baelish. Do you know what? Look, Sansa. Everybody lies, okay? Except me and you, of course. Which no, because he just admitted lying to Dontos the whole time. I mean, he promised him 10,000 dragons for his services. He says so himself. And instead, he rewarded him with 3 quarrels, which killed him. I would say that qualifies as lying, wouldn't you? Which, by the way, 10,000 dragons? Really? I told you, dear listener, that I was going to keep track of currency from now on. From this book onwards. So let's see how much Littlefinger promised Dontos as payment for his services. Why don't we? Let's turn to my money ledger, my currency ledger. Because, all right, we learned in Jaime 6 that Selwyn of Tarth is offering 300 dragons for his daughter, Brienne, as a ransom. And let's keep in mind that Jaime reckons that is a good price for a knight. For the life of a highborn knight, 300 dragons. You see how that 10,000 dragons is already an out of whack, what would you call it, figure. But let's move on. The same Brienne back at the Inn of the Kneeling Man bought those 3 horses with 3 golden dragons again, and at the time Jaime thought she'd been ripped off. This was in Jaime 2, and later Tyrion at the market square was dismayed at seeing that a golden dragon could only buy you a side of beef or 6 skinny piglets. That was back in Tyrion 4. Okay? So let's see how much... Right, let me just do it like old-fashioned style. Pen in hand. Yeah, we learned how to do multiplications and divisions at school. That's the extent of my mathematical skills. 10,000 dragons. Let's see how much was being dangled before Dontos. Again, 10,000 dragons, so either 33 Briennes or 33 knights of the 7 kingdoms of equal value, interchangeable according to Jaime. Good price for a knight, 300. So 33 Briennes You know, Dantos was promised the equivalent of 33 knights, knights of the Seven Kingdoms, hedge knights, I suppose, or sworn to a family. Does the value change, the market price? Or if you like, 10,000 horses, easy one to calculate. That's good horses, proper knight palfreys. Or 50,000 cows, because a side of beef is half a cow. Or, if that's your taste, 1,667 skinny piglets, or I suppose 2,500 fat ones? Come on, Dantos, really? You believed it? That your services were worth 2,500 fat pigs? Come on, Littlefinger has a reputation for conjuring money out of thin air. You know, it's like when we're children. When I grow up, I'm gonna own like $1 billion, trillion, billion dollars. Yeah, and I'm gonna have a billion to infinity, to the power of infinity. Yeah, that's it. Top that. You know, come on. Littlefinger's money is mostly fictional, as Tyrion is beginning to find out firsthand as master of coin. Who gets that kind of salary? 10,000 dragons. Come on, Dantos. You should have known better. Anyway, and the dialogue that ensues is what I told you earlier, you know, a dialogue where Lord Baelish extracts info out of Sansa while saying little himself, you know. I mean, among that little things that he says, he first reveals that the entertainment provided by the little jousters, little people, was supplied by him. And yes, the intent was indeed to miss Tyrion, to piss Tyrion off, to annoy him, and create, you know, friction, attrition, whatever you call it, between Tyrion and Joffrey. The latter jumping at the idea as soon as Littlefinger pointed out to how Joffrey's uncle, Tyrion, was going to have a positively dreadful time during the whole performance. Because dwarves, you know, even though Joffrey said, well, why would I? Ugly dwarves, I wouldn't want it. I hate dwarves. Those are Joffrey's words, yeah, not mine. And Littlefinger said, yeah, well, you hate them, but not as much as Tyrion will. Oh, I see. As an opportunity to piss Tyrion off. So yes, Joffrey jumped at the idea of hiring those two jousters, whose story arc may not be concluded yet. Anyway, and so yeah. But this in this dialogue, yeah, this is the first time the words are actually spoken aloud. Joffrey is dead, possibly poisoned, and Tyrion has been arrested as a suspect. And it's Sansa who says all that. Although Littlefinger would have figured out that the king was dead because bells ringing, I told you already. And then he confuses the hell out of Sansa, because at the end of the day, I mean, if what went down at the wedding party was the reception, whatever, was all, you know, Littlefinger's plan, well, I mean, why? The Lannisters are his benefactors, aren't they? To which he just replies, yeah, well, I had no motive. Besides, I am 1,000 leagues away in the Vale. That's my alibi, remember? Always keep your foes confused. Keep saying, Littlefinger while tapping the tip of his nose with his index finger. If your foes are never certain who you are or what you want, they cannot know what you're like to do next. Or you're likely to do next. What you're like in Game of Thrones parlance, Song of Ice and Fire. What you are like to do next. Sometimes the best way to baffle your enemies is to make moves that have no purpose, or even seem to work against you. Remember, Sansa, lesson number 1. Remember this when you come to play the game yourself. The Game of Thrones. Roll credits. This is the famous Littlefinger speech, be unpredictable, where pretty much every single sentence spoken by Littlefinger is probably bullshit. And it doesn't end there, because then he goes on to say, yeah, Sansa, you're kind of like the daughter I never had, that's why I'm doing all that for you. You're like the daughter I never had that I could have had with Catelyn, because did I ever mention that I took her flower, shall we say? But then, alas, it wasn't meant to be, because she was betrothed to your dad. And man, what are you going to do, right? But now it's all right, Sansa. I have you, you have me. Smooth sailing from now on, yeah? Come on, I want you to consider me your new surrogate dad, yeah? And off they sail to the sunset. Although, really, they're sailing north. So, but yeah. Well, east and then north, isn't it? Yeah. And and I should probably say pretty much everything that Littlefinger has just said is a lie, but I trust you don't see this as a spoiler because, well, duh, because Littlefinger is a compulsive, not to mention pathological liar. So anyway, this is how Sansa V ends. Not the last Sansa POV chapter in this particular installment of the series, A Storm of Swords. But we made it till the end. Well done. If you have made it to this point, gentle listener, thank you for your attention span and not to mention patience. Thank you for listening. Okay, is what I'm trying to say. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to do all of the things that regular people like your good self and me and yours truly do under such circumstances. And I look forward to reading you the next chapter, which is Jamie. We'll catch up with Jamie, so stay tuned. And until then, goodbye. Fare you well.